Ryan sat at the kitchen table, his fingers wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. Across from him, Emily scrolled through her phone, barely acknowledging his presence. The silence between them had become normal, too normal. What was once a home filled with laughter and warmth had turned into nothing more than a space they coexisted in. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Emily, we need to talk." She didn't even glance up. "About what?" "You know what." Her fingers hesitated over the screen, her lips pressing into a thin line. Then, with an exaggerated sigh, she set the phone down and finally met his gaze. "Ryan, I really don't have the energy for another one of your lectures." His jaw tightened. Another one of his lectures. That's what she thought of his attempts to fix their marriage. "This isn't a lecture, Emily. This is our life." She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed over her chest. "And what exactly do you want me to say? That I'll suddenly transform into the perfect wife you want?" Ryan exhaled slowly, forcing himself to stay calm. "I just want to know if you even care anymore. If this marriage still means anything to you." Emily scoffed, the sound empty and dismissive. "Of course it does." But there was no sincerity in her voice, no conviction, just words. Ryan studied her face, searching for something, anything, that would tell him she still felt something for him. A flicker of warmth, a shadow of the love they once shared. But all he saw was indifference, and that's when it hit him. He was the only one still fighting. The realization settled deep in his chest, heavy and suffocating. He swallowed hard. "Emily, if you're unhappy, just say it." She rolled her eyes. "I never said I was unhappy." "No," he said quietly. "But you act like you don't want to be here." Her expression darkened, and for the first time, she had no quick remark, no sigh of exasperation, just silence. A cold chuckle slipped from Emily's lips as she shook her head. "You know what, Ryan? You're lucky I haven't left yet." The words sliced through him like a blade. Lucky. Lucky? For years, he had done everything to keep this marriage afloat. He had compromised, sacrificed, fought for them, only to hear that she thought she was doing him a favor by staying. Something inside him snapped. Ryan pushed back his chair and stood. "You're right, Emily." She frowned. "What?" He nodded, his voice eerily steady. "You're right. I should be lucky, but not because you haven't left, because I finally see things clearly." Emily blinked, thrown off by his sudden shift in tone. "Ryan, what are you talking about?" He didn't answer. Instead, he walked past her, down the hall, and into their bedroom. Without hesitation, he yanked open the closet. If she wanted to leave so badly, he'd make it easy for her. The suitcase hit the bed with a thud. Behind him, Emily stormed in. "What the hell are you doing?" Ryan didn't stop. Clothes were shoved into the bag. Shoes. Toiletries. Anything that was hers. "Ryan, stop it," she shrieked, grabbing his arm. He finally turned to face her, his expression calm. Too calm. "You said I was lucky you hadn't left yet." She faltered. "I didn't mean..." "Well, now you don't have to keep doing me that favor." He zipped up the suitcase and pulled it off the bed, pushing it into her hands. Emily stared at him, her mouth slightly open. "You're actually serious?" Ryan met her gaze, unwavering. Completely. For the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't in a long time. Relief. Emily swallowed, her fingers tightening around the suitcase handle. "You're throwing me out." "No," he said evenly. "I'm letting you go." Her eyes darted around the room, searching for a way to turn this back on him, a way to shift the blame, to twist the moment in her favor. But this time she couldn't, because for once, Ryan wasn't playing her game. Finally, she let out a slow breath and lifted her chin. "Fine." And just like that, she turned toward the door. Ryan followed, his steps measured, his heartbeat steady. He held the door open and met her eyes one last time. "Take care, Emily." She hesitated for the briefest of moments, then stepped outside without another word. The door clicked shut behind her. Silence filled the apartment, but it didn't feel suffocating anymore. It wasn't the tense, heavy quiet that had haunted him for years. This silence was different. It was lighter. Ryan sank onto the couch, staring at the door, waiting for something: guilt, sadness, regret. But none of it came. Instead, he felt peace. His phone buzzed. A message from James. "James, did you really do it?" Ryan smirked, thumbs tapping against the screen. "Ryan, yeah, she's gone." A few seconds later, James replied. "James, damn. How do you feel?" Ryan leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Ryan, like I should have done it a long time ago." And it was true. For years, he had been afraid of what life without Emily would look like, afraid of being alone, afraid that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't enough. But now, he wasn't afraid anymore. For the first time in forever, he felt like he was breathing again. He stood, moving through the apartment, noticing how different it felt, how much lighter the air seemed. And as he took it all in, a realization settled deep within him. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Without Emily's presence, the apartment felt different, lighter, calmer. There were no more sharp words lingering in the air, no more cold glances cast from across the room, no more feeling like he was walking on thin ice every time he spoke. Ryan opened the fridge, his eyes landing on the leftover takeout from 2 nights ago. Normally, this would have sparked one of Emily's usual complaints. Something about how he should have cooked, how she was sick of eating out, how he never did anything right. But now, there was only silence. For the first time in a long time, he could eat in peace. He grabbed a beer, popped the cap off, and leaned against the counter, letting himself enjoy the quiet. No tension, no second-guessing. Just himself and the freedom he hadn't realized he was missing. Emily sat in her car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. She hadn't expected him to actually call her bluff. Ryan had always been the one to beg, to plead, to do whatever it took to fix things. She had gotten so used to him fighting for her that it had never crossed her mind that one day he might stop. She scoffed, shaking her head. Fine. If he wanted to be done, then she'd be done too. She started the engine and pulled away from the apartment complex, driving aimlessly through the streets. But no matter how far she went, something gnawed at her, a tiny voice whispering in the back of her mind. What if you were wrong? What if Ryan had been the best thing that had ever happened to her? What if she had finally pushed him too far? What if she had just lost the only person who had ever truly loved her? Emily clenched her jaw, forcing the thoughts away. She wouldn't let herself regret this. She wouldn't let herself miss him, even if, deep down, she already did. Days turned into weeks. Ryan moved on. For the first time in years, he felt like himself again. He laughed more, slept better, and even started seeing someone new. Someone who didn't make him feel like he was constantly walking on eggshells. Someone who actually appreciated him. He focused on his work, hit the gym, and reconnected with friends he had neglected because he had been too busy trying to salvage something that had been broken beyond repair. And every single day, he woke up feeling lighter. Emily, on the other hand, felt Ryan's absence in every part of her life. She missed the little things. The way he made her coffee just the way she liked it, without her ever having to ask. The way he always pulled her closer at night, as if even in sleep, he couldn't bear to let her go. The way he had never given up on her, no matter how many times she pushed him away. At first, she pretended she was fine. She went out with friends, partied, laughed too loudly, and acted as if she was better off without him. But no matter how many distractions she chased, no matter how many nights she spent out trying to forget, she couldn't. Because every night, when she lay alone in bed, the truth crept in. She had lost the only person who had ever truly loved her, and she had no one to blame but herself. 2 months passed before Emily saw Ryan again. She had gone to a coffee shop to clear her mind, hoping that a warm drink might ease the weight pressing down on her chest. But just as she stepped inside, her breath caught. There he was, sitting at a corner table, smiling, laughing at something on his phone. And he wasn't alone. A woman sat across from him, twirling her straw in her drink, her eyes alight with amusement. Ryan leaned in slightly as she spoke, his posture relaxed, his expression open, happy. Emily's stomach twisted. He looked free. For a moment, she thought about walking over, about saying something, anything. But as she took a step forward, Ryan glanced up, and their eyes met. For the briefest second, something flickered across his face, recognition, surprise. And then, just as quickly, it was gone. He gave her a polite, indifferent nod, and then he turned back to his conversation, as if she were just another stranger in the crowd. Emily stood there, frozen. This was it. He had really moved on. And now, all she had left was regret. That night, Emily sat alone in her apartment, staring at the empty spaces where Ryan's things used to be. It had taken losing him for her to finally understand. Ryan had loved her. He had fought for her, stood by her, given her chance after chance. And she had thrown it all away. Tears burned in her eyes, but she wiped them away. Crying wouldn't bring him back. Nothing would. She had made her choice. And Ryan, he had finally made his. For the first time, she truly understood. She had never been the one keeping him. He had been the one choosing to stay. And now that he wasn't choosing her anymore, she had no one to blame but herself.